Hello, this is Chernik, and you're listening to The Professional Artist on 1077 United Public Radio. And we are live also on YouTube at YouTube/Echo Chernik. So please like and subscribe there. And I'm excited today to be live with Brittany Torres. Hi, Brittany. How you doing?
Hi, Echo. So good to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your fabulous podcast. I remember watching you do this live in person at MissCon last year and just being like,
Oh,
a podcast is happening over there. How cool is this to watch you at work?
I
So
think
it's,
that
it's
was that the second one or the first one? That was with Todd Lockwood, right?
yeah, it was I think the second one. So it was so
That was
fun to see. So it's great to now be here with you, where you hosted so many wonderful people already. So I'm very honored and very flattered to be
and
included.
you're number 39, so this is kind of cool.
Yes.
So it's exciting. So yeah, thanks for being on. So I can't believe this is number 39, and no, this is so much fun doing this, and I'm glad. I guess people are really enjoying it, and hopefully it's helping a lot of people. We try to share some good information with young artists and talk about artist journey. And the best part about doing this is I've gotten to talk to a lot of artists I haven't talked to in years, and meet bunch of new artists, and connect to people, because being an artist, you don't get to talk to a lot of people, and this has really forced me to talk to people. So it's been really good to get out and actually reconnect with artists and talk to people. So that's been, like, I think the best part of doing this, and so it's been good for me. Is hopefully it's been good for everyone else too. So, but
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
So anyway, I put your URL at the bottom. Hopefully it's correct. TorresFantasyArt.com. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
T
Yes.
O
And I'm the
R
same.
R T O
Yes.
R R E S fantasyart.com. For those of you that are
And it's
listening.
the same on Instagram at Torres Fantasy Art. Very, original, I know, but keeping it easy.
Easy is good. Easy. You don't want to be too complicated or hard to spell. So definitely easy is good. So go ahead and tell everybody what you do, who you are, and describe your work, so that for those of you that aren't watching on YouTube. So.
Fantastic. Well, hello, everybody listening and watching. My name is Brittany Torres. I am a digital fantasy artist. I specialize in using Photoshop and creating painterly pieces based on photos and photo manipulation, kind of developed my own, I would say, unique style over the last couple of years, from way back in the early, bad deviant art photo manipulation days to where I'm at now, where I'm showing at shows both locally and nationally. I really focus on portraying the female gaze in fantasy art is something that's very important to me, portraying women in fantasy. So I only paint women, and I absolutely love it. And I love connecting with people over their stories. I also studied medieval studies and English literature in college, and that has stayed with me my whole life and my whole career. So I really like to base my different pieces in something mythological, something fantastical, something that maybe it's a character that we are seeing a different side to. And so, really creating women who are strong and powerful, soft and gentle, feminine, and boss bitch. We have both sides to us, the multifaceted woman. And I love to bring that into fantasy, start a new conversation with it. So, because of that, I also really love to be on panels at different conventions, and hopefully get to be the woman up on the panel that my younger self would have loved to see, really representing the kind of artist that I want to be. So that's what I really strive to do. My day job, if we can call it that, is my I have a business, though. The last, what is it, 4 or 5 years now that I've helped artists, and I've helped fine artists, small business owners as well, and personal brands develop their online digital presence through websites and social media marketing. So I've really enjoyed bringing my artistic endeavors and my experience and my storytelling from that into a business, helping other artists really discover and develop their own stories and develop their online presence and their confidence with that. So it's been really fun to come to conventions like the ones that you and I attend and get to bring both sides of myself to the panels. One panel I'm talking about fantasy and I'm talking about art, and the other panel I'm teaching a social media class. And I've really enjoyed how in the fantasy world, in the fantasy community, I've been able to bring that full aspect of myself to it. So that's a little bit of a background about me.
And where can people find the social media aspect part of your job? Do you have a different URL for that, or?
It's a little bit on pause right now. So, but I will be launching back up again. I'm doing a lot of really fun things with creating pre-done websites for artists and for authors. If you get,
Cool.
paralysis when it comes to talking about yourself, I've got you covered. So it's called The Social Atelier, and that's on Instagram. So we'll be kind of ramping that back up. I went through a couple different things from some health problems straight into recovery, and then after that having a baby. And so it's been a little bit on pause.
Yes, we were talking about the baby.
Yes, 7 weeks old.
Oh, that sounds so cute. I love that age. We were talking about the challenges of managing a business and having children at the same time. So, because especially as women, we have to kind of find a balance with that, and that's interesting. This is your first one, right?
It is my first one, and she's a little angel who cries a lot. I'm just finding my footing, and I'd like to think that I can get back to making some artwork in time for my next shows. It might not happen. It might happen. We don't know, and we're just going to roll with the flow.
Just roll with it. You will.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that rolls into something that I wanted to touch on, which not to hijack your conversation, but in talking about the professional artists, I just want to remind everyone watching and listening that you can be a professional artist casually. You don't have to be full time. And so many artists that I talk to feel this pressure to, if they do their art and they're making money from it and it's being successful, they feel this pressure to go full time into it. And that's not the right course for everybody. It absolutely is for some people, but for some others like myself, that would I would take on so much stress. With that, I do better with having my artwork be my side thing. I still am professional with it. I'm making money. I'm being a guest places. I'm getting commissions. I'm doing all those things, but I'm not doing it full time. It's not my full time income, and it's not my full time commitment. And I feel like maybe those artists who are like me maybe feel a little bit of shame around that they're like, I'm not this, like, my art isn't full time, this isn't my bread and butter. And I just want to encourage anyone who's listening who's ever felt like that you still get to call yourself a professional artist, even if you do it part-time, even if you do it casually like me, even if you don't go in full tilt. It's all right. And you got to do what's best for you and finding your balance when it comes to professional and to income. It's all right if your path doesn't look the same as somebody else's path.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're professional enough to know how much you can handle, because not everybody can create art 24/7 all the time. I mean, it's hard.
And it takes a joy. It takes a joy out of it for me. For personally, I am not, I'm so jealous of those who can sit down and work on artwork every day and just work on their piece no matter what, get that hour in every single day. I somehow can't do that. I think it's the late ADHD diagnosis, but I've learned that I make good artwork when I'm inspired and I'm feeling the vibes and I can whip out a whole piece. But if I am feeling the pressure of a commission, if I'm feeling the pressure to be working just to be working, that doesn't work for me. That process doesn't quite work for me. And because of that, I know myself well enough that I could not keep and do well at a freelance job. a consistent job, like getting hired in with a company or having the expectations of, get these thumbnails in, get these things, do these cards. I just know it's not right for me. So I found my little niche. I found where I show at well. And that for me is doing convention shows a couple times a year. Whether that's a big show, a smaller local show, and doing some table shows and just really connecting with people and doing the artwork that I love. And people seem to buy it more when I'm just making stuff that I love. So for me, that works out quite well. And I make money other ways. I make money in other jobs. And right now I'm taking a step back and I'm just focusing on staying at home. Whatever your path is, we still need to be encouraged to call ourselves professional artists. I see a lot of people who aren't full-time online, like in the Facebook groups and stuff. They're like, I'm thinking about going full-time because I really want to be a professional artist. And I'm like, I want to reach the screen and shake them and be like, you already are. You already are a professional artist. If you're at this point where you're like, I'm doing so well, should I go full-time? I'm like, you already are a professional artist. It's just, how much of it do you want to do at a time? Where do you want this to take you? So I think it's just a really important discussion for all of us to have. And that's the reason one of the reasons I was so excited to come on your podcast, because I was like, this is my message. This is what I want to get across to everybody who might be like me, who's like, I love doing this, but this is not a full-time gig for me, and that's okay.
Yeah, you're completely right. It's a great message. It's okay. You're still a professional artist, even if you're not killing yourself making art 24/7. You're still a professional. So you just have to let yourself accept that.
Yeah, I only crank out a couple pieces a year. Like anyone who's watching the mermaid piece that is our background screen right now, that's the only piece I did last year. And
it's gorgeous.
Thank you. But it's because I got pregnant and I completely shifted focus. I was like, all my creativity went out the window. I didn't even think about artwork, for 10 months. But luckily, I made one piece, poured my heart and soul into it, and it won a bunch of awards. So I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm fine. I feel fulfilled. This, I've sold a lot of prints of it. It made me feel, in the professional sense, fulfilled as an artist for the year. And that's all I needed. Now, that's not enough for some people, and I totally get that. But for others where I'm like, I'm really happy with this. And now I know going into this next year, the pieces that I'm going to do and I'm going to plan, I'm better set up for, because I worked so hard on this one piece. I showed myself what I was capable of. So I'm really excited to start my next pieces now that I'm in a better place, time-wise, energy-wise, creative-wise.
Yeah. That's such a healthy viewpoint. I love that.
Oh,
it's so healthy. Because like nowadays with like Instagram and with everything online, there's this constant pressure to feel like, I just finished a piece, but I haven't finished another one. It's been like 12 hours. You just, because you feel like every time you go to a page, this art, other artists are cranking piece after piece after piece after piece after piece. And some of it's not even real, especially with AI and everything out there. You feel like all this pressure to constantly be creating new stuff, or you're not professional and you're not doing it fast enough. And it's a lot of pressure, and a lot of it doesn't even exist. And then the public has this constant demand and receive notion that they've, been bred to expect to, where they're like, all right, where's your next piece? Where's your next piece? Where's your next piece? And you're like, no, I will create at my speed and you will receive my art at my speed. And they're like, oh, okay. So
it's absolutely true. And going into the coaching mindset for a moment, one of the things that I always worked with my artists on when they face this situation was to remember to bring your audience along with the journey. If you train them, because remember, everyone's just trainable with their algorithm, right? If you train them that all you do is show finished pieces, boom, 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 here you go, here you go. That's what they're going to expect. If you bring them along for the journey, if you make them fall in love with your journey, with your process, with you as the artist, what you're doing, what you're thinking, how you're going about it, that's what they're going to expect. So that when you build up to then saying, here's my new piece, you've brought them along the whole time. And now they're even more excited about this piece. It's not, oh, here's a new piece, 10 seconds later, I don't care anymore. You've created this relationship with them where they now care about this piece, they care about your artwork in general. And that's what we call turning them from followers into fans. Because I would rather have 300 beautiful, strong followers or fans, excuse me, than 1,000 followers, and that's true with, my other business. I've had full-time businesses. I right now specifically do branding, and you're going to love this. I do branding and websites for pageant queens. It's very sparkly. It's very fun.
Oh, that sounds so much fun.
It is. So that's what I've been doing for the last year, and it's popped off, but it's because we really focus on bringing in that artistic side and that storytelling side. But to get back to my point, I only have like maybe 350 followers on that Instagram account, and I am making more money with it than with any other business that I've done. And it's because the people who care, they really care, and they're willing to invest. And so for an artist, that might look like those are the people who are doing a commission. Because wouldn't you rather bring someone along, have them fall in love with you, your process, your artwork, so much so that they commission something for $2,000 instead of you struggling to pump out new piece after new piece and say, this is up for print, this is up for sale for $15 in the print shop, and try and struggle along with the prints. So it's, where are you putting your energy in bringing your followers into that fandom that is you? So that will help with burnout too, because you're trying to always put out a new piece. Now put out the behind the scenes, the studio, you somewhere is at a table. Like, who are you? What are you doing? Especially nowadays when computers can make quote unquote art, when people are just pumping out finished product. Now people more so than ever, especially after COVID and lockdown, people are really interested in who the artist is. Who are you? Why are you doing what you do? What's your story? And if you can,
well, they like to feel connected. They like to feel connected with the artist too. I even post stuff. I ask my patrons questions. I'm like, oh, do you guys like this one or this one? Do you like these colors or these colors? Because I'll get them involved with what I'm doing and actually ask them their opinions on things. Because
they want to be involved. They're like, oh my God, they're talking to me.
Yeah, because they want to feel like this is their way to be involved with the piece. And now that they're actually being an artist, they're being involved with the actual creation of the piece. Now they're like, hey, I helped with this piece. I helped make this art. And it makes them proud because they're like, and it's exciting. So
absolutely, yeah, it takes some practice. So for anyone listening who's like, whoa, I don't want to like put myself out there that much. Just little baby steps, and I always say, don't look at my Instagram for examples of this. I do terribly with my own stuff. And that's I think a lot of times with coaches and teachers, we are so good at instructing others how to do it. And I've seen my artists just flourish, but when it comes to my own artwork, I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't care that much. It's terrible. So don't look at my own, but do take the advice.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. And it's terrible, but it's, when it's your job, you don't want to turn it on your own hobby, I think is what it is. But my Instagram is just a place of fun for me. And I love that about it. But if you're feeling a little bit intimidated about opening up and sharing more of the behind the scenes and not just finished pieces, because I see a lot of artists get a little bit nervous to share like the process and the behind the scenes. I hate showing
the process
before it's done. Well, especially for me, because I'm working with photos. So it looks like Frankenstein. It looks horrible because
there's that ugly teenager phase in the middle where you're like, ah, it's ugly. It's like, oh,
you're like, you're like, trust me, just hang in there. It will be great. And they're like, how? I'm like, I literally can't explain, but just if you hang in there, I'll show you.
It'll grow into its body. Trust me.
People want to see that. People want to be involved. They want to see the ugly stage and then see how it, turns into this beautiful butterfly, because the process is sometimes just as fascinating as the final product. And it really does make you, like we said earlier, fall in love with the final product, more. So with
that ugly stage can be so ugly. You go back sometimes, you look at that middle stage, you're like, oh God, oh, that's horrible.
It really can be. Sometimes I do like a time lapse of the screenshots of my pieces. I never remember to film my screen when I'm actually working on my artwork, but I take screenshots. And so when you see, like, if you go to my Instagram, you'll see those screenshots go through as a slideshow, and it's like, wow, what this is terrible. What in the world? Oh wow. All of a sudden
that happened.
Yeah, it's a really interesting process. It's really important for us to be kind to ourselves and find where you're comfortable with it. How much do you want to show? How much do you not want to show? Again, are you doing this full time? If this is your full-time gig, then opening up on social media, putting up more of that content and that process is probably a really smart, really good idea to do.
And if you're not enjoying it, then you should change your strategy, because don't if you're not enjoying sharing stuff online, and if you think it's it's too much work and you're not having fun and it becomes a miserable, laborious process, it's going to show in your artwork. So, you should rethink, be like, this isn't working. What can I do differently? Time to change my strategy. So
yeah, absolutely. So it is a process, but it's worth finding out what worked for you and what doesn't. Just like how I figured out, doing a lot of commissions is not for me. I'd rather do my own thing. You've got to experiment. You've got to try. You got to try it out and see what works, see what doesn't. Find the problems and find new solutions.
Hi, Athena. I see Athena's on. Athena always has like a million questions. So, Athena, you got to have some questions for Brittany. So, let's see if we have some good questions, because she's always dying to learn new things. So,
I love questions. Yeah.
Go ahead. Throw some questions out. But especially about marketing, I guess. And you said you teach panels on marketing and marketing yourself on social media.
Yeah, so like if you're local to Washington, my next convention is NorwestCon here in SeaTac, Washington, and I'll be teaching a workshop on about building your own website. And I'm launching pre-made website templates just for artists to help kind of with that overwhelm. So that's when I'll be launching that. So I'm really excited for that. And then hopefully we'll also be teaching that, and as well as a social media panel at WorldCon in Seattle here as well in this coming August. So I really enjoy getting to go to my conventions in the art show and hang all my artwork up in the art show, and then get to ditch it and leave and go do panels all day. That's what love doing. So something like more like a Comic-Con where I'm at a table all day, it's not as fun for me as getting to be in kind of the more formal art show, and then go off to do all that, to do the panel.
And now you were talking before we started, you're going to be bringing the baby with you now.
Yes, yeah, we got to introduce her to the fantasy world early. She'll be about 4 months. She's 7 weeks old right now. I can't hear any crying at the moment, so she must be okay. But it will be fun to balance that and bring her into my world and continue doing what I love to do. Hopefully have some new artwork done before that. I know it's silly, but I feel some pressure about my next art show because I've actually won Best in Show there the last 3 years running.
Oh boy.
And so I know statistically everything, it's not going to happen again. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm so honored, but it is ridiculous. It happened 3 years in a row, I was told. And So I know it's not going to happen again, but I do still feel this now pressure that I've never ever felt before, that people might be like looking for my next piece. They
You have
might
a
be saying,
title.
they might be saying like, oh, what's she gonna do next? So I was like, oh man. So now
You have a title to defend. Oh my goodness.
I know, not I know. So whoever wins it, I'm gonna be, so thrilled for them next. So I don't have any expectations, but it has made it very fun and very exciting to think about going to the next show, being like, like, can I one up myself? Like that's kind, like, could I do this again? Could I make this happen again? Like, how cool would that be? So that's kind of what is helping me stay motivated for getting back into, public, I suppose, after having a baby and getting back into the art world, is saying like, what's going to happen next.
Well, in the end, you're competing against yourself, so
it really has been. But it is also, I rise to the occasion very well. I don't do so well with my self motivation. I never really have, but I do well to rise to the occasion or to a challenge. And so I had won it 2 years in a row. And then I said to my art mentor, Rob Carlos, I said, what would be crazy? I was like, what if I won it next year? And I was like, what if I should, like, what should I do for next year? And literally, this is about an hour after I had won the second year. I was like, what would happen if I won 3 years in a row? And he goes, Brittany, that's ridiculous. He's like, no one's won 3 years in a row. And he's like, it's not going to happen. Like, I don't want you to get your hopes up. He's very kind and, being very realistic for me. And I said, bet, let's go. and it made me feel like I was like, what could I do if I really put my mind to it? What could I create if I really, really focused? And so I put my head down for a couple months to work on this last piece, and it turned out quite well. So it's really interesting to, and again, that's going back to the people who have that self-motivation to work every single day on their artwork. And I just am so amazed by that dedication, that self-motivation, because I personally don't have that. But I do have that motivation to, which again, ADHD motivation of like the panic whirlwind, but to rise to the occasion of, I have this show coming up. What am I going to show people? I want to show the best that I can, the best of me. And so that's where I say I'm a casually professional artist.
No, you're a professional artist. So, all right, Athena has a question. I am listening and planning an art summer camp based on art history for a local gallery. I am also terrible at social media. What are some critical habits to have for maintaining an online presence and/or community?
Oh, okay. A lot to unpack there. So cool that you're doing this, Athena. That's fantastic. An art summer camp based on art history at a local gallery. So it sounds like that you want to make sure that you are getting people in, getting them supported and feeling seen on social media. There's two sides to social media. It's to make sure that your accounts that are revolving around, whether it's your artwork or like this event and community, you're wanting on one side to be marketing and to be bringing people in and educating people about your event. And the other side is having the people who have done it, who are coming, to feel supported and seen and be visible on social media. So there's kind of two sides to that. The critical habits, I would say, for maintaining an online presence, just consistency. Just dropping this idea that you need to create a perfect post, needing to be something or show something specific. What I would rather see is you have consistency, because guess what? You're going to get better at social media the more you do it. And if we only post once a week and we spend 3 hours stressing about the caption, you're not going to develop these good habits, these good skills. Whereas if you post every day or post every other day, just something, it allows a community to get built over time. And that's going to be stronger and healthier for both you and your community. So really just getting in the mindset of posting, like, I need to post. What am I going to post? Let's get it done, put a timer on it, and get something posted is better than not. It's going to build a really critical, like you said, but also healthy habit of getting used to being online and developing your own voice, which will come with time. It's way better than trying to make a personal post. So I always recommend to the people I work with, if you're having trouble building those good habits or having trouble getting online, put a timer on your phone and post when that timer goes off, no matter what. Don't put your phone down again until you've posted, and then walk away from it. Don't stress about it again until the next timer goes off. So one of my artists I worked with, she refused to be on social media, just wanted nothing to do with it. And I said, you've published 5 books on art. Like, I really need you to be on Instagram because people want you there. People want to be able to tag you. They want to be a part of your community. Why don't we focus on having you show up for them? And that helped her mindset a whole lot. And we had her on that timer, having an alarm go off on her phone for when she needed to do those posts. And eventually, I actually was able to back off from being there helping her with everything. And now she runs her account, which is like, I don't know, 30,000 people or something in her community. And she runs it herself now. And I'm always texting her. I was like, I'm so proud of you. I saw that post that you put up. And, so when her next book is coming out, she just announced it. We've got a community in place who's excited for it. So circling back, Athena, to your question, building also a strong online presence and community. If you can focus on not just marketing, but also focus on celebrating and making visible the people who are coming, who have come, examples after the art, the summer camp is over, making sure to continue posting about how well it went and everyone who went there. That helps build a community so that next summer, when you go to market it, people are excited about it. People know about it. It's that healthy balance of in between. I hope that, I know it's a long answer, but I do hope that helps kind of break down why we're doing it. Because what I hate is when someone asks, somebody online a social media question, they're like, just post this or just post once a day. They don't give you the why. They just tell you what to do, but they don't teach you, why are you doing this? How is this going to be helpful for you? And how to post like that? What if that's hard for you? How are we going about that? So it's really important that if you are looking for social media advice, looking for marketing advice, especially as an artist, you are looking to learn from someone. And this is why I had like 12-week long academies like online with artists, because people were like, I want to know the why. I want to build the healthy habits and see, why am I doing this? Not just what to do. Like, give me the fast, here's the answers to it. That doesn't really help us artists. We're storytellers. We connect very deeply to things. We want to know, why am I doing this? And as an artist, you feel more than anyone else that time is money, because all the time I'm spending on social media, I could be doing artwork with this time, right? So if you're going to spend your hard-earned time on something and it's got to be social media, we need to know and fully understand, why am I doing this? How is this helping me? And how is this going to be easy for me so that I can get back to doing what I really love, which is artwork.
All right, so Athena responded, oh my gosh, that's so great. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I'm so doing a timer. Thank you so much. What is your take on having a unique post for each different social media platform, or are we using the same post among them? Same among them. So
yes. So if you can do a slightly edited caption to kind of talk to each audience, because your Facebook audience, like, let's face it, Facebook or Blue Sky or TikTok or Instagram, whatever you are on, I don't even know anymore because I've been so out of the game for the last couple of months. But whatever platform you're posting to, they have a slightly different flavor of audience, right? So your content is going to do well there, but how do you talk to that audience is going to be a little bit different. So like Instagram, you might have a caption that's tagging a bunch of people and showing this finished piece, and then maybe Facebook, you're going to tweak that caption a little bit to tag different people or platforms and maybe focus on something else. But using the same vibe, the same content for each is going to save you a ton of time. And just send it out to all the different platforms. Absolutely. So if you're having a video and you're putting it on an Instagram reel and you're putting it on a YouTube short and you're putting it on a TikTok, if you still have that, you know, making sure that you put out the same content, but you can kind of tweak the caption a little bit. And there's a lot of different platforms that will allow you to take one piece of content and edit the captions for the different platforms and then push one button and go, whoosh, have it sent out if that is what you're looking for.
Yeah, so spend less time, you know, don't do a different one for each platform because that's going to take so much time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'm not great at the social media aspect of it. I was actually thinking maybe I should just sit down, prepare a bunch of images for a bunch of posts ahead of time, and then I can just set the timer and then do one each day so that all my images are prepared ahead of time.
Well, so that is called content batching. And like when I was teaching artists, I would teach how to content batch for 1 month's worth of posts at the beginning of the month. And then you don't have to do it again, right? Because you can, you know, there's a lot of platforms that allow you to pre-batch it all together. You can also just do that on your notes or a Word document. I used to do it on my notes app on my phone. And I would just put a picture in there and then write the caption and then go down, and then each day pull something from my notes app, depending on what I was feeling that day.
So much easier than trying to get into the mood of thinking, what am I going to say now?
Yeah, so you commit, you say, you know, today is the way that I'm going to be creative today is I'm going to look at all of my content, look through my phone, the last month of pictures that I've taken and videos that I've taken, and I'm going to write captions for each. And it's not a chore. It's the way that you're creative and you're deciding to storytell that day. And then tomorrow I'm going to get back to my artwork for the next 29, 30 days. And then a month from now, I'm going to sit down and, you know, spend 3 or 4 hours and write out all this stuff and commit to that. If you are wanting to create a really strong online presence that's not going to overwhelm you, that is the way you're going to do it. Now, that doesn't work for everyone. Some people, like in my classes, they're like, yeah, I absolutely hate this. I'm like, cool. Then you tried it. I was like, fine. I love that you hate it because now you know it doesn't work for you. Now you know, going back to your social media, if you're posting every day, you know, and doing organic, like posting like that, now you can feel better about doing that because you know that this is actually what works for me and I do like this better. So finding what you hate and finding out what doesn't work for you is way better. And I mean, that's how I went about becoming an artist in the first place too, was that I just experiment. I'm completely self-taught. It's always a very weird conversation when people are like, what art school did you go to? I was like, oh, the school, I graduated with a degree from the University of YouTube. And in the school of lots of mistakes. And
nowadays it's amazing. You don't have to go to a specific art school. I mean, it's great nowadays.
And I found mentors. So just like if you're trying to find, you know, get better at social media, you go find someone like, you know, me who can answer your questions about it. You're finding a mentor. It's just like the way that I learned to do artwork was I struggle bust along until I couldn't anymore. And I'm like, I don't have the answer to this. I can't figure it out. I went to somebody who did have the answer and who could not only, very important, not only could answer my question, because this applies to both art and social media, who could answer my question, but answer it in a way that applied to what I was doing. Because people can give you social media advice, but who are they? Are they a real estate person? They're not going to understand what your audience is looking for and your social media, what's going to work and not. You know, you need to talk to somebody who understands social media for, if not an artist, a creative entrepreneur. That's who you can look for. So a creative business owner, people who are creators, those are the people you're going to look for advice from on social media. Just like how when I hit a roadblock, I would go to my art mentor and I say, Rob, help me. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And if you ask him, he'll laugh about all the times over the last decade or so that I've come to him and said, I don't know how to make this work. I don't know what I'm doing, or does this look right? And all of our Facebook messages back and forth of him having to like correct, like draw on my pieces and say, okay, here's what you're going to do. But the reason it was so helpful and the reason it worked and the reason I became a better artist was because I went to mentors like him who not only answered my question about light or photos or Photoshop tools, but he understood what I was trying to achieve. He was understood where I was trying to go with this piece. And
Yeah.
he didn't just give me the advice that worked for him, because him and I have very different styles, completely different, completely different looking artwork, you know, and we get hung next to each other at the same show. And I'm like, this is my art mentor. And people are like, what? Because we're so different. But it's because he was such a good mentor that he said, here, I'm going to give you advice that's from my experience, but I'm going to tailor it to your style and what you're trying to achieve, and not just blanket advice. You know, I still remember my very first art show where I went to this artist who was in the show, very prominent in the community, and I said, you know, could I get some advice from you? Oh, I think back and I was so innocent and sweet. And I was like, can I get some advice? And he's like, sure, let's look at your artwork. And he gave me advice and told me what was wrong with my artwork based on what he would do. Right? He told me there was too much glow to my artwork and that I was pandering to my audiences and that would never work. And there's too much glow and too much sparkle. And I said, and I always remember just being told that, and especially for my women pieces, I was told that my mermaid piece wasn't as good as it could be because she had a top on, and like if I wanted it to be really good, I should, you know, take the top off. And I was like, well, that's kind of awkward because that's actually a picture of my sister. So
Oh,
so
my.
well,
It's too much glow and too much sparkle. I'm thinking the fact that you're telling me you're doing websites for pageants right now with glow and
I
sparkles.
know, right? I'm ingrained to love sparkles, but what it showed me from a young, not age-wise age, but in my course of my career as an artist, I was young in my course of my career, and it was a very pivotal moment for me to realize, am I going to take his advice and take this and apply it to my artwork? Because it was just his advice of what he knows would worked for him. He didn't tailor it for me. He didn't look at what I was trying to do. And so I did for about a half a year. I tried to follow his advice, and my pieces were like all dark and gloomy. And I was like, this is horrible. I hate this. I don't like doing it. Switch, pivoted, did a woman. She was fully clothed. There was glow. There's literally a glowing sword in it. Guess what? Boom.
There was glow. There was sparkle.
I know.
There was
and then and then the next time I was in a show with him, that piece won best in show, and you know, haven't really talked since. So it's a real life example of the difference of whose advice are you going to take? Who are you going to for this advice, and apply it to both art and apply it to social media and marketing.
And I'm sure they meant well. I mean, I'm sure they were trying to give you good advice, you know.
Maybe. We'll never know. It depends, because again, when you go to somebody to ask for advice, and I see this a lot in the art world, because it's very easy to tell with artists. When you go to somebody and ask them for advice or ask them for a critique, you can tell who is critiquing you out of ego and an inflated sense of like, oh, well, I am this fancy best-selling artist or something, and who comes to you and you're like, hey, can I get some advice, and comes in and they give you truly good advice, and they ask you, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to do? Okay, this isn't so good, but here's why. You know, what do you think would make it better? All these different conversations. Like, I remember I had that kind of critique with Todd Lockwood when I, you know, forced him to come over and look at my stuff at a show. I said, Todd, please come give me advice, you know. And he spent such a long time giving me truly, you know, quietly giving me good advice and letting me know what didn't work, but letting me know what did work. And I improved so much. I don't think I've ever told him how much I improved as an artist just after that conversation. But he does it in such a way that is so lacking of self-ego. He's really there teaching you as the artist and
And
helping you get better.
there's a proper method of critiquing, by the way, for, when you critique another person's art, you don't just come in and be like, well, this sucks, or, you come in and first you say something positive about the art. You're like, wow, I really like your colors, or I really like your composition. You always start with something
and then
positive.
You're like, so, but also, what were you trying to do over here?
And if really it's really bad and you honestly have no idea what the hell's going on in the piece, and you're like, you start with like, wow, tell me about the piece. Tell me about the piece, because you have no idea if it's even right side up. You're like, tell me.
Absolutely. But
tell me about your piece if you really have no idea what the hell the piece is,
Right. But that's the same. It's the same as like as an artist, especially as a fantasy artist, and going to, somebody who, I don't know, who's on social media, who's helping, like I help these accounts grow and stuff. And it's like, well, they don't know anything about your market or your niche or the people you serve. I've made the most, honestly, between you and me, I've made the most money as an artist off of collaborations through TikTok and collaborating with other creators and doing artwork in tandem with authors and with podcasters and influencers there, and had the absolute best time of it. But if I went to maybe an old school fantasy artist and ask them for advice about that, they'd be like, well, you need to be in a gallery show or something. I've gotten such different advice. So it's really important to know who are you going to for advice. Do they understand where you're trying to get in your path?
Right.
So yeah, the advice is who are you going to for advice is really important, because you have to know what's your goal, and I always said that my goal was to be a guest of honor at a fantasy convention. That was like my big goal, and I'm sure it's the goal of many fantasy artists, because we're like, I want that.
Or win best in show 4 times in a row. 4 years? We're going for 4?
Yeah. Oh, no.
Best in show 4 years?
I'd be fly by. I don't think that's possible. But I went to my art mentor, like I said, and it's like, who do you want to take advice from? And he'd been guests at a show before. So I was like, hey, you've been a guest at a show. This is my goal. This is where I want to go from where I'm at to being the guest of artist at a fantasy convention. How do I get there? And he gave me such good advice to follow over the next couple of years, which worked out quite well. So my first guest of honor is next year in 2026.
Where?
So at RadCon.
Oh, at RadCon! Yay! I love RadCon. Are you
going so this year? Excited. I'm not, just because of the baby. It's just too soon. I'm barely leaving the house.
I was a guest a couple of years ago, and I just kind of kept going. So I just love the show.
I've heard it's
just
lovely.
Such a cute show. I just keep going.
I've heard it's lovely. I'm so excited, and they have this amazing program where they send the guests out to the local high schools to go talk to, classes of high schoolers about, pursuing their artistic and creative dreams. So I'm so stoked to be doing it.
It's such a fun show. I love that show.
It is. I'm so excited. But Rob had told me, he's like, it's going to take 10 years for you to get to that point where you can expect to maybe, okay, now I might be able to be a guest of honor. And I went back and I thought, when was my first art show? My first actual art show. And I had to go back in photos. So I was like, when was that? And I went back and looked. My very first art show, I only was in it because Rob said, you've got to be in this show. You're doing this for fun as a hobby. You need to start trying to show. I had one panel, and I think I had 3 pieces of artwork on it at NorwestCon. And it was in 2016. And it's so exciting now to realize 10 years later in 2026, I'll get to be a guest of honor. So it's so important, whether you're doing it full time, doing it more part-time like me as a professional artist, knowing like not only the advice, who are you listening to, but where am I? Where do I want to go? And where do I want to get to? And who has advice for me to help me get there, because those are the people you want to take advice from, whether it's about social media, about your artwork, about your career. Drown out the noise of listening to those people who are like, oh, get rid of your glow. And I was like, if I had gotten rid of my glow and my
Never get rid of your
sparkle,
glow. That's a terrible idea.
I know,
So
but if I had gotten rid of that, it would have not helped me become the artist I am now and put me on the path of the success that I've been chasing. So it's just so important, I think, as we pursue this professionally, to listen to the right
I
people.
think it's safe to say never listen to anybody that says get rid of your glow or your sparkle.
That's
So,
true.
That sounds
Maybe
like a bumper
tagline.
sticker.
It
Never
should
get
be my
rid of your
tagline.
sparkle.
Never get rid of your glow.
Or your
Plus,
sparkle.
it's fantasy. we want glow. We want magic. We want sparkle. We want something fantastical, and that's what I hope to capture with my artwork. I hope to capture like a luminescence, strong, beautiful, powerful female in the fantasy world. That's what I hope that people see, and I hope that that's what people see when they look at my artwork and they fall in love with it.
Glow and sparkle. So I remember about and when I was in college, one of my professors told us that it took about 10 years to become established as an artist. And I remember about 10 years in, I looked around and I realized I was making a living as an artist, and I counted back and I was like, oh my gosh, it's been exactly 10 years. I was like, holy cow, I'm making a living as an artist, and it's been 10 years. I'm like, what?
I love that.
So it's about right. So, all right, well, we're just about out of time. So what else do you want to say besides more glow, more sparkle?
More glow, more sparkle. I would say that there are a lot of, and this is speaking, I mean, this applies to all artists, but especially to fantasy artists. There is a lot of artists out there. There is a lot of artwork that, looks quote unquote traditional. I would say don't be afraid to do something different. If it feels like you, if it looks like you, stick with that, because other people are going to love it if you love it. My artwork doesn't quite look like anybody else's at the shows I go to. And it's actually what makes people stop. If I table somewhere, and I go to a local convention and I table, I looked around and I was one of 2 fantasy artists there. And my stuff looked like, something that people hadn't really seen before. And it was attractive because of that. So not to be scared of doing artwork that looks different. It doesn't have to look one way or traditional, this or that, or painted or illustrated. You can experiment and be bold and work with photos like I do, or work with acrylics, or work with this or whatever. It doesn't matter, but to be following your passion, because that's what fantasy is. I can't speak to sci-fi. I don't know anything about sci-fi, but for fantasy, it is passion and discovery and fantastical made real, right? Made visible. So all the wonderful themes in our head out on a canvas. So it's okay if that's the beat of your own drum. And I love that my work might not look like anybody else's, because it looks like me, and it makes me feel good.
Your work stands out, definitely. So awesome. What's your URL? It's torresfantasyart.com, right?
Correct.
TORRES fantasyart.com. So, and same as on Instagram.
Yes, it is.
Yes, so go visit her art. So, and I wish we were going to see you next week at RadCon, because I'll be there.
I know. I'll be there in spirit. So, we're not traveling quite yet. We're just getting out of the house with this little baby girl, but you know what? She'll be just a little over 1 and walking, running around, hopefully next year. And but if anyone's coming to NorwestCon or even WorldCon here in Seattle in August, I will be at WorldCon.
Awesome. They're doing panels, and I can't wait to see the baby. So, all right, cool. Well, thank you again. And thank you everyone else for joining us. And take care. And everyone, keep making art. And remember, even if you're doing it part-time, you are still a professional artist. So just, those are awesome, awesome words of advice. So, bye.